This is Grow Omaha Uncut, where you can watch our radio show, including what goes on in the commercial breaks. And be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons.
Well, good morning and welcome to the show. Jeff Beals at your service. We are brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center, 4 metro area locations, along with Cheer Athletics, the nation's #1 all-star cheer gym. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, a legendary real estate deal maker and all-around entertaining fellow, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everyone.
Well, good morning, Trenton. And we've got some good, quick, right off the top of the hour restaurant news. Legacy Chop House opens today in the former Jams West Omaha location near 176 and the West Center Road. Trenton, you arranged for the Grow Omaha team and several of our friends from NP Dodge to go and have preview night there. That might be one of my new favorite restaurants.
Absolutely. It's a big space, and they're going to actually expand it into a party room to the south. And this is the property that Omaha Development, they have their offices upstairs. And this building was originally built, it was like a 40,000 square foot, or I forget how big it was, but it was
nice sized.
It was built for Upstream Brewery West, but it was too big. And now Daryl Lisey, who has a history in the food business, he and his partners put together a very nice restaurant with high-end steak. We saw Todd Simon there from Omaha Steaks, so they supplied some of the beef.
Now you know where that steak comes from.
Yeah, but it was a nice crowd. I had a lot of fun. Yeah,
really enjoyed it, and a great new addition. It was the type of restaurant you see downtown Dundee or Blackstone District in far west Omaha. So it was kind of interesting and kind of nice to see that quality of a place. We don't have a ton of those in
that
West
location.
Omaha.
Yeah, West Omaha.
Well, other little restaurant thing we want to mention right off the top of the bat. Every 2 weeks, we have a Grow Omaha Eats restaurant review written by Chris Corey. And the most recent one came out a couple days ago. It is Cattle Call. Cattle Call is a new cocktail bar restaurant place in the former Culprit Cafe space, 16th and Farnham downtown. And as the review says, it kind of tricks you a little bit because when you first glance at it, you think, okay, bar or whatever. But Chris says it's actually kind of a fine dining place. Food's amazing. And in addition to all of their cocktails and menu items, Kathmandu Momo Station is part of it. It's kind of like a restaurant within a cocktail bar restaurant.
So it's a misleading name, it sounds like.
Yeah, doggone those people. But at any rate, as misleading as it may be, go there because Chris says it's outstanding. You can read that review and all of our restaurant reviews by going to growomaha.com and simply clicking on reviews on the navigation bar. All right, it's news time. A lot of news items this week. And the news is brought to you, as always, by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. The office is located at 114th and Davenport Street, just south of Dodge. But Eagle Mortgage, been around for a long time. Holly Schneidwin and her team do an outstanding job of taking care of their clients. It's stressful buying a house. For most people, it's the most expensive thing you buy. And you only do it a handful of times in a lifetime for most people. So you want to get it right. And Eagle Mortgage is not a bank. They're not beholden to a bank. They shop the market. They find the best lending solution for you, regardless of what type of loan you want to get. eaglemortgagecompany.com. All right, well, first up on the news, Trenton, University of Nebraska Medical Center leaders broke ground this week on a new on-campus student housing facility. We've talked about this before, but the groundbreaking took place. This will be a $66 million, 200,000 square foot, 6-story building for 300 students at the corner of 39th and Dewey Avenue. Expected opening date August 2026. Went by yesterday on my Friday Grow Omaha tour. Lots of tractors.
Yeah, it sounds like our dorms in college 30-something years ago.
Just like your dorms at Tulane University in New Orleans circa 1987. Well, other news item, very exciting, Drury Development Corporation, which is out of St. Louis, a part of St. Louis Drury Hotels, recently purchased a half-city block at 322 South 10th Street. So this is that surface lot on the northwest corner of 10th and Hardy. Been there forever. If you love urban spaces like we do on Grow Omaha, That thing has been a frustrating thorn in your side, but it's going to become a building. It's only 35,000 square foot parcel.
0.8 of an acre.
But Trenton, some interesting things about this. Okay, and we'll get to the purchase price in a moment. But first of all, it's going to be a Drury hotel. But there are some interesting restrictions on this thing because it had been owned by the company that had the Embassy Suites just a block or two to the south. A lot of restrictions there. And according to covenants filed with the county, no hotel that goes there can have more than 252 rooms or more than 4,000 square feet of meeting space. So it won't be huge, but it'll be nice sized.
It'll be tall.
And yeah, you'll have to have to kind of stretch.
If you
out.
want to put 252 rooms or thereabouts on 0.8 of an acre, you're going vertical.
So the same company is building a hotel in downtown Lincoln right now with about the exact number of rooms. It'll be 8 stories. My guess, though, is the parcel's a lot larger down there. I know it'll be interesting to see. But Trenton, as you found out, the purchase price for this thing was over $179 per square foot, which is an awful lot.
Yeah, and you can only do that when you're going vertical. If you did that on a single or 2-story building on West Omaha, that would be ludicrous. The top prices on like 84th and Dodge area, probably around $50 on a really great day for a seller. So, I mean, this is 5 times that.
Got some interesting news coming out of the Western Papillion area, 156th and Schramm Road. Hubble Realty Company, a real estate development company out of Des Moines, Iowa, which is one of our new Grow Omaha newsletter sponsors. They are coming into the Omaha market because of the strength of the Omaha market, hot and heavy, building a $25 million, 260,000 square foot Class A industrial building right there at 156 and Schramm. They're going to build a lot more of them because the project they're doing is 156 acres. They anticipate having a total of 10 buildings there. Interestingly enough, in this first 260,000 square foot building that's under construction, Rotella's Bakery is going to take 100,000 square feet. So this is in addition.
On top of the other, yeah.
Yeah, because they have their new cold storage facility just to the north of that. Rotella's is really growing like crazy.
It's unbelievable. Great Omaha success story. And Rotella's, you know them from 108th and, what is it, Harrison?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they just keep growing and growing and growing. And their distribution gets farther and farther away.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what they are doing. All right, we've got some other big political news that affects Omaha growth and development, and that is that Omaha voters overwhelmingly approved bonds totaling $333 million in Tuesday's election, City of Omaha bonds. And that's an important enough story that we brought in a guest newscaster with us to help us analyze it. Mayor Jean Stohtert, what does this project mean to you in these 6 bond issues?
This is a really great thing for the City of Omaha. It'll keep our momentum moving forward. And there are 6 bond issues overwhelmingly passed by the voters, all 70% or more. And they are street bonds, sewer bonds, public facility, public safety, park bonds, and then street preservation bonds, which are the continuation of the big street bond issue, the $200 million one that we passed in May of 2020. And, we're always worried when we have these bond issues on the ballot because there's a lot of misinformation out there. This time I heard a lot people were talking about it'll raise your taxes. And we schedule these so carefully every time we do them so that they don't raise taxes. Then there was a thought that, well, if I vote against it, it'll lower my taxes. And that's quite the opposite because these are things that we're obligated to do, like sewers and streets. And if we did not have the bonds to pay for them, then it would be most likely we'd have to raise the levy because we wouldn't have enough revenue. And the way I explain bonds to people, it's like how many people can go out and buy a house and pay cash? Not many people can. And so you go out and you get a loan and you get it at a good interest rate and then you pay for it over a period of time, which makes it affordable. And that's exactly what we do with the bonds. We issue the bonds, and then we can pay for it over time, because some of these big items on there are things that we can't pay with just the revenue that comes in on an annual basis. So we're very happy they all passed.
And if the interest rate goes down, can't you refinance those bonds?
And that's why we can continue with these bond issues like we do without raising taxes, is because we are either retiring old bond debt or we refinance all the time. And we're constantly refinancing so that we get that lower rate so that we can add more bonds. So it's kind of a steady stream of income that we have that we're able to do all these things and keep the city moving forward.
So as the mayor said, bond issues covered street, sewer, park improvements, new equipment for police and fire. But the headliner, as far as Omaha is concerned, $146 million bond approved for public facilities, the CHI Health Center. Some details there, 25 additional meeting rooms, 94,000 square feet on the east side of the convention center, make us more competitive, attracting even more meetings and conventions to Omaha. And not only that, Mayor, but the east side of the CHI Center is going to look a lot cooler and nicer, too.
It is. And, this expansion is going to go over the back, like you said, on the east side. So it's over where the loading docks are in the back. You're not going to be seeing a lot of change in the front. But like you said, we are missing out on a whole different level of conventions that we could get in Omaha, but we don't, because we don't have enough meeting rooms. And so this will more than double the number of meeting rooms, which will open up a whole, like I said, different level of conventions we could get, which are good for the city, because every convention has a strong economic impact for the city. They use our hotels, they eat in our restaurants. And so this is really good for the city. And the bond debt for CHI will be paid off soon. And so that's a good thing, too. So it's time that we do some refreshing with it, too. But I think with that, you got to think, what are we going to need to go along with those extra meeting rooms and bigger conventions? And we're probably going to need, and undoubtedly going to need, another hotel down there.
Oh, and Trent and I have some ideas of some preferred brands.
Well, we'll be talking to you about it then. But I think that's, and we've got to talk about the parking. And, are we going to need to build another parking garage, maybe on Lot D down there, if we develop Lot B, or put a hotel on Lot B? So there's a lot to think about and a lot to consider. But the money, that the $100 million that was on the bond issue will go to that, but there will be another $100 million that will come private. So this is another example of these great public-private partnerships that we have developed in Omaha.
People have no idea the amount of generosity from our stakeholders, foundations, philanthropy, private and public, how they contribute, and it allows the city to do such amazing things. That 90-acre park, $450 million or so, wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the citizens of Omaha contributing, the private citizens.
You're absolutely right. The riverfront parks, $400 million. The city put in 60. The rest is private. The ballpark, you know how the ballpark is funded. There's private money in that. The original Arena Convention Center. The library at 72nd and Dodge, that's a $158 million library. The city put in 20. And the rest is private, yet it's going to be an Omaha Public Library with our employees in it. The partnerships that we have are unique, and not all cities have those.
What I like about this downtown area, it's becoming more and more walkable with retail, hotels, the convention center ever expanding, and everything, and the space around it, so you can really get to the old market. It's really connected it. And then you've got the builders district, and it's
right.
all coming together.
And the streetcar is something that's going to connect all those together. And not just the development we have going on now, but we also are looking into the future. And, we have a plan for 16th Street. To redevelop 16th Street around where the Orpheum is. So there's a lot more vision that we have for downtown to keep us moving forward.
Well, we didn't bring the mayor of Omaha in here just to analyze one news story. We're going to have her stick around, and she's going to be joined by Heath Mello, president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Heath and Jean about tax increment financing and what it means for the urban core and how the streetcar fits into all of this. It'll be a very important discussion for anyone who truly cares about the continued growth forward. Like I said, Heath Mello, Jean Stohtert will be analyzing that with us when we come back, but we're going to take our first break of the hour. We are brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center, along with Cheer Athletics on News Radio 1110 KFAB.
That was fun, just kind of have you kind of jump in
Yes, yeah, that was good. Okay,
So
Yeah, if you ever need another job.
I might. Next summer. we just really don't know. I'm
We're
gonna
not
be
worried
here.
about that.
I'll be here.
we think you'll stick around another 4 years.
Yeah, I know it. One of the police officers that works for me and I, we decided that if the mayor thing doesn't work out, we're going to open a Starbucks up in the lobby of City Hall. What a hit that would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know the most.
I see sublease.
Yeah, the most popular revenue producing Starbucks in the state of Nebraska is the one at the Med Center. The one in the lobby at the Med
Inside
Center.
the lobby of the Med
It's
Center.
packed all the time because everybody's there, 24/7, and they come down
yeah,
there
you
and they
got
want
the-
their coffee. And,
But as Omaha, you might have to go with scooters because there could be some political blowback.
Well, both
Yeah.
of them are going to be in the new airport.
I like scooters too. Scooters is good. Yes, it sure is.
I call it $8. Starbucks, $8.
Starbucks, $8.
But there's a lot of new startup.
Your drink's only
This is a
$8.
liquid city when it comes to food and
I
gas.
know it. We love
So
our.
when you guys alternate, that microphone's very directional.
Okay.
So make sure you go right in because it's always hard when you share. So make sure you get right in front of it.
Okay.
Which is kind of awkward when you have two people.
It's okay. We'll figure it out.
We could just get KFMB to put it on.
I know that Auditor Foley is coming in. Did I tell you?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I ran into him Sunday night and at an event, and I talked to him about his TIF report.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can we sit down and talk about this face to face?" And he said, "Well, I didn't say anything negative about Omaha." And I said, "Well, I took it that you did." So he said he's coming in to my office.
That's great. May have
And
been
I'm-
interpreted that way.
I'm going to have the planning director and the finance director and Jen Taylor, the city attorney's going to be there.
Listen on our free iHeartRadio app for all your
Oh.
music, sports, talk,
I
and
know.
podcasts. Free.
You should frame that.
BFFs.
is there a reason why you guys, you got a crease between you? There we go. You're separate pages.
And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals and Trenton Maggage at your service are brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center with 4 metro area locations, serving you with all of your auto body needs. Also offer mechanical services. Plus, we're brought to you by Cheer Athletics, the nation's #1 all-star cheer gym. Well, there's been a lot of misinformation lately about tax increment financing. You know it as TIF, an important development tool that has played a big role in the momentum that we're seeing on the east side of Omaha and certainly in the urban core. And to talk a little bit about TIF and kind of help make sure that we Omahans don't commit an unnecessary, unforced error, we have with us Heath Mello, the president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber, and Mayor Gene Stohtert. Heath and Gene, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and I guess we'll just start with a big, broad question. We've heard a state senator and a state auditor make some public remarks questioning tax increment financing. Perhaps we should start with what exactly is it, and how does it work from the 30,000-foot view?
Right, and to hog the microphone because Heath is really well versed in TIF, being a state legislator. But I will just say this: the recent criticism of TIF financing that we have heard, and that you're talked about, termed out Senator Mike McDonald that sent a letter to me saying, "I want you to stop using TIF." Shows a lack of understanding about this very important and beneficial financial tool that we have. And TIF is authorized by the state of Nebraska for community redevelopment and for economic development. We know that. We use it very judiciously, and we follow state law to the T. Auditor Foley came out with like a 23-page report, but Auditor Foley also admitted that in that report, he never said we are using it wrong. He never said that. He basically said, I just don't like how a lot of cities are using it. But he didn't say we're doing anything wrong. TIF has a big positive impact, particularly in areas that have the greatest need for investment, which we use it a lot in our urban core. And, some people will say, well, how could you use TIF in the urban core for Mutual of Omaha? But Mutual of Omaha is building an $800 million skyscraper. But you got to look across the street at an empty building that's boarded up or a surface parking lot down there that's full of weeds too. And so you got to look, it's geographically defined TIF, and that's what's important for people to remember. And I think the one thing is people criticize TIF because they think it's a handout of taxpayer dollars. And they will say, well, the city's going into debt over TIF. And that just is not true. That's not how it's used. It's false, because developers who use TIF finance through their project, they go to a bank and they get the loan through the bank. So the risk is with the bank and the developer, not with the city at all. And the city of Omaha is not the lender, and it does not create debt for our city or for our taxpayers. So there's no loss of current property tax revenue. And the way I explain it, the easiest is if you take, I'm hogging the mic here, take Crossroads, and I'm just going to throw out a number. This isn't accurate, but you say, take Crossroads, the value you say is $10 million. They are paying They are paying taxes on $10 million. They are going to build an $860 million development there, and they will be paying taxes on $860 through the TIF process. When the TIF note is given to them for public improvements, there's only certain TIF eligible expenses. Through that process, they will pay incrementally higher taxes every year as the value of that development goes up. But a lot of that money goes back to them to help pay for the development. But when that is over, when they pay that TIF note back, who are the big winners? That $860 million of taxes they're going to pay goes back into our tax rolls, and the biggest winners are the school districts.
Absolutely. So, and that's all for-profit development. If there's a hospital or a church, or if properties that are on the tax rolls go to a not-for-profit, that's when the coffers lose. So it's good, all this private development going on,
right?
Whether it's the tower downtown, big projects, small projects, that increases our tax base tremendously.
Absolutely. And, I'll bring up Mutual again because I mentioned it before. I've had people say, Mutual of Omaha, Fortune 500 company, they couldn't build that tower downtown without TIF. Mutual of Omaha could build anywhere in Omaha, anywhere in Nebraska, anywhere in the country. We wanted them downtown. And to build that tower with that much parking for 4,000 employees on one city block, they needed TIF to do it. It's where you're building. It's much more expensive, harder to build in an urban core, but that's where you want your big buildings. I will say this, in 2023, the city of Omaha approved 23 more TIF projects just in 2023. It represented over $1 billion in development. That $1 billion of development is creating jobs. It's broadening our tax base. It's good for all of Omaha.
Bringing in families.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would have been a lot cheaper for Mutual of Omaha to build some campus along the freeway in Gretna or something like that.
And if you want to know why the urban core of Omaha is so important and why it's being so successful right now, go to Des Moines. The people of Des Moines would love to see what's going on, would love to have what's going on in downtown Omaha. There's a lot of empty storefronts and things like that. And TIF is a big part of this. The public-private partnerships, the foundations that are stepping up. It's amazing. And how the downtown core goes, so goes the rest of the city.
Ironically, Trent, there was just a story that came out, I believe yesterday, from Flatwater Free Press in terms of showing the momentum in terms of the urban core, particularly the downtown, in terms of new residents moving down to downtown Omaha, and kind of just showing how downtown Omaha has changed so much more recently. And with some of the projects the mayor has mentioned, the public-private partnerships, and how we are stacking up against a lot of other Midwestern cities, particularly in trying to recruit more and more population to our urban core moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go ahead, Mayor.
I was going to say recently, Forbes listed Omaha as the number one city in the country for people to move to in 2024. We got 100 points out of 100 points. And it's just because of this great momentum and development that was going on. And I always bring up, I moved here 30 years ago. And when I moved here 30 years ago, if you think of the changes that's just happened then, let me just list a thing. There was no String of Pearls along Abbott Drive. There was no CHI. There was no Charles Schwab Stadium. There was no Bob Carey Bridge. There was no Gallup. There was no Holland Center. There was no Steelhouse. There was no Tenaska Center for Arts Engagement. There was no Kiewit Luminarium. There was no Riverfront Parks. Just think of the momentum and the things that have happened in the city of Omaha 30 years, and particularly in the last 10 years. Other cities are looking at Omaha saying, how do you do this?
Most of those things are done during your 12-year watch.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick middle of the show break for the news, and when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Mayor Gene Stohtert and Heath Mello, President and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber, about tax increment financing and a few other issues that are very relevant about it when we are growing the core of Omaha. So stay with us. You're listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center, along with Cheer Athletics on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals sitting next to Trenton Magid. We're brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Cheer Athletics, the nation's #1 all-star cheer gym. Omaha location located near highways 370 and 50 in Papillion. Well, we have with us Heath Mello, the president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber, and Gene Stohtert, Mayor of Omaha. We are talking about tax increment financing because it has been in the news a fair amount over the last month or two, and wanted to continue that conversation. And one of the things, Mayor Stohtert, when we think about tax increment financing, some people say, well, it's giving away too much, or it favors developers too much. But if you think about it, it's not all that different from the way we handle SIDs on the suburban frontier when we're knocking over cornfields.
That's absolutely right, because both the SID law to help develop, and we use it a lot out in West Omaha, and TIF are both incentives that will allow the developers to borrow money and then repay the lender from the increased taxes that are generated from the new development. And I mean, there's some differences between the two, but the main difference is that one is used for new development, the SIDs, like on farmland outside city limits, and the other is used for redevelopment in the older parts inside city limits. But the intent is just about the same. It allows the developer to afford to develop, and then that money is paid back over time without risk to the city and the city taxpayers.
And you can also look at it, construction prices aren't coming down anytime soon. If you want nicer projects too, some of these developers, you say, well, gee, the developer can pay for it without tax increment financing money. Well, maybe they can, maybe they can't, but they can also afford a nicer project to make our city look beautiful, as opposed to just a lot of simple boxes.
Absolutely. Another great example of how we use TIF is the Blackstone. I know almost everybody in Omaha has been through the Blackstone. The Blackstone started 10 years ago with the conversion of Farnham Street, making it two-way. In the last 10 years, there's been over $350 million worth of development in the Blackstone. None of it would happen without TIF. None of it. And that's just a great example. Todd Heath with the Duo, which is the old Central Park Plaza at the end of the Jean Leahy Mall. That was an office building that was 75% vacant, soon to be 100, just standing there empty. He is using TIF, couldn't do it without TIF, and he couldn't do it without the streetcar. He's building 707 apartments in there. And I will tell you, people bring up the apartments we are building, and especially in their urban core a lot. They fill up as soon as they're open. There's a need. These developers are smart. There's a need for them. Todd Heath's apartments are over 90% full.
Heath Mello, I want to talk a little bit about streetcar, because I suspect one of the reasons why there's been some of this talk about tax increment financing, or some concern about it, could be misunderstandings about the streetcar. And from your perspective as head of the chamber, talk to us a little bit about how the streetcar ties in with our tax increment financing discussion today.
Well, I think that there unfortunately is a lot of misinformation purely because folks across the city don't want to understand how tax increment financing works. And as you heard the mayor explain, kind of how the basics of it works in terms of where the money goes and how it doesn't impact the city's debt service in that sense. But when it comes to the streetcar, it really comes down to the basics of that folks that are not along the streetcar line, and that property owners that are not along the streetcar line are not paying for the streetcar. And it really is that simple. And something we talk about, the mayor and Steve Jensen, in terms of a lot of their presentations across the city about the streetcar and the streetcar financing. And when I'm out talking about the streetcar and various economic development projects, we're able to share with taxpayers and property owners and those interested in economic development that this is one of those very unique opportunities for Omaha where individual property owners who are going to see the most benefit from the streetcar are the ones paying for it. And that's because tax increment financing is that unique of an economic development tool that is being used to finance the streetcar. And it is something I was speaking at a forum, the CPA Society, with the Lincoln Chamber president and the Department of Economic Development director last week. And then the question was asked kind of about what's the most innovative approach to deal with economic development and transportation infrastructure. And I got to be a little greedy in the sense of saying, everyone across the state has probably heard about the modern streetcar project in Omaha. And the reality is tax increment financing is by far still the most basic but the most important innovative tool at the end of the day to be able to do innovative projects like this because it only impacts those property owners who are going to see the most benefit from it. And so we've been out traveling the city, talking to folks, reminding folks in North Omaha, South Omaha, West Omaha, they'll see the benefit of the streetcar. They get to ride it. They get to utilize it.
For free.
And they're not going to be the ones paying for it. It's going to be the property owners who are along the streetcar route who will be the ones ultimately paying for it.
Whose properties are going to greatly increase in value. And they'll be the ones reaping the benefits of it at the end of the day.
And I love the fact with using tax increment financing for the streetcar, we don't have to raise taxes on Omahans and we don't have to depend on federal grants, which come with a lot of strings and a lot of trouble.
That's right. We're not using any federal grants with this first route of the streetcar, and people need to understand that this is the initial route, too. We are already looking into expanding it up to the airport and to North Omaha, and hopefully one day down to the zoo. But people will say, well, wonder if that development doesn't happen like you have planned. And we are so confident that it will. We even had a company from Baltimore come in and spend 9 months here, went through every single parcel. And he estimated that we would generate $2 billion worth of revenue in the first 15 years of increased revenue because of the development along the streetcar line. $2 billion in 15 years. We haven't started construction. By the end of this year, we're going to have $1.5 billion already.
I like our chances.
We haven't even started, so it's already successful. And that's more than enough revenue to pay for the construction of the streetcar. And with the additional revenue, and now they're predicting $4 billion in the first 15 years, we can do other things like affordable housing, streets, permanent bike lanes. It's all a plan to develop that urban core, but it's all working together.
And in the process, we build one of the coolest urban centers for a mid-sized city anywhere in the United States of America. Now, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I do want to give maybe both of you just 30 seconds to kind of give us a closing argument, for a lack of a better term. What do you want to leave the listeners with, Heath?
Well, I would just leave listeners that, there's a lot of misinformation about tax increment financing. And, from the Chamber's perspective, we're going to continue to try to educate not just taxpayers, but also public policymakers down in Lincoln that this is by far the most important tool to help both the mayor, the city council, and us as economic developers to be able to work across the city, particularly eastern part of the city, North Omaha, South Omaha, the downtown area, to continue to reinvest in areas of the city that need reinvestment. And if we lose tax increment financing, we're going to miss out on a tremendous amount of private capital investment in decades to come. And so, and at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt the city's public services. It doesn't put the city in debt, and it really is a win-win for the public and the private sector at the end of the day.
Well, we're just going to leave it with that because we're out of time. But Mayor Gene Stohtert and Heath Mello, head of the chamber, appreciate both of you joining us today, and thanks for helping us out with this very important conversation.
You bet. Thanks for having us on today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Like I said, that was the mayor of Omaha, Gene Stohtert, and the head of your Greater Omaha Chamber, Heath Mello. Going to take our final break of the hour. And when we come back, it'll be the Perkins Kreitzer Construction Lightning Round. A lot of things on the list. Stay with us. You're listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by Cheer Athletics and Dingman's Collision Center on News Radio 1110 KFAB.
I wish it lasted longer. There was so much more we want to say,
It
isn't
must
there?
be. We're still getting recorded, but
We always run out of time. Yeah.
isn't it interesting how people are poo-pooing or trying to poo-poo, the few people that are, tax and financing? It must be like an election year or something.
Yeah, you think? You think there might be a few more elections coming up too?
One wonders.
And they need talking. They don't have anything to campaign on.
I was just thinking, my
You gotta
front
change
yard
the
looks
status.
so barren now without any
I know
political
it.
signs in
But
it.
I told the city council, oh, look who the cat
I don't know why you had to
brought
come
in.
on the radio and lie to these people. Not about Tiff, the part where you said you didn't want to hog the mic from Heath.
Yeah, and you didn't see me elbowing them like
I
this.
hear it. I hear it go,
Taking on the shins.
Some wrestling.
morning, grow Omaha listeners.
But there's so much more to talk about to say why the streetcar is important, and I'd like to do it with this one day too.
I like people to listen to my show.
You poo-poo the streetcar. It's funny, one day he was saying, you were going on back and forth with Lucy.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm sure the mayor is not listening because she would be texting me right now. So I started texting
Well,
him.
my phone started smoking. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you too.
Cheers, Scott.
Yeah.
I said on live radio one time, I said, someone's got to tell Roger Dixon a little bit less country and a lot more rock and roll. And then there was some rock and roll concert, and in the middle of it, he calls me. He's like, "Are you here?" I wasn't there.
I was at Lainey
Happy
Wilson
now?
last night. It was packed to the rafters.
Which what?
Lainey Wilson, she put on a really
30
good.
seconds.
She put on a really good one. Can we get a picture?
Yeah,
Or do you got to go back on the air?
Can you wait
Stay.
a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
20 seconds.
We don't have much left.
Okay.
You can chime in too.
Well, we can. Good.
We offer novice, regional, and national co-ed teams that compete with the best teams in the country. Go to caomaha.com and come join the All-Star Cheer Revolution. Cheer Athletics, where champions are made.
I try to get him distracted. Put my hand on his leg.
I don't know how you do it.
Before we had video,
And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid with you. We're brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Cheer Athletics. And it is time for the Perkins Kreitzer Construction Lightning Round, which we have a lot of things for you really fast. Thanks to Perkins Kreitzer Construction for making this possible. They do cool projects. Last week we told you about Scissors and Scotch, the chain of men's barbershops that give you a cocktail with every haircut. Maybe I should start going over there. At any rate, opening one next year at 172nd and Maple. That'll be the third one in the metro area. Perkins Kreitzer Construction doing that project. But they just don't do cool restaurants and retail spaces. They build warehouses and office buildings and churches and shopping centers. They do all of it. Sometimes you see of them described as P-C construction. In fact, that's the website, P-C construction. But Dave Kreitzer and his team over at Perkins Kreitzer Construction do a great job, and we highly recommend them as general contractor for your next construction project. Trenton, should we just fly through this real fast?
Yeah, and I want the mayor to chime in on some of these.
Okay, if she so desires. Brucey Bistro and Bar, new ownership and a new brand at 132nd and Dodge.
Yeah, and they're going to have two chefs instead of one. People love Jenny Coco. She was from J. Coco's, and now it's going to be called the Linden House, and they're expanding in the party room, bigger party room. And they have a chef that used to be at M's Pub, so we'll check that out.
Via Farino opened its second location yesterday in Regency Landing, 107th and Pacific. Previous one was in, the existing first one was in Little Italy.
Yeah, Mayor, did you go?
No,
So, yeah.
but I didn't.
I got an invitation the mayor didn't get.
I was invited, but I want to go.
But it's excellent. And Ethan Bondalid and Maven Social does a great job.
Tipico Helado, a Mexican ice cream shop, has opened its third Nebraska location, 156th and West Dodge Road. And then while we're on the topic of ice cream, Stella's Ice Cream out of Idaho is coming to 4002 North 203rd Street. I think that's like 204th and Maple. By Little Caesars and Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
But they're only in Idaho and Texas right now. So Nebraska, Omaha's getting this really early in their growth.
I think that Coneflower has gotten so much national press that all these other ice cream places are trying to knock them off the block.
Compete with them in their own backyard. Santoro Mexican restaurant, which is kind of the new iteration of what Riviera's Mexican food was at 120th and Blondo. We now are hearing 11 weeks approximately, which puts you into January. That will be at 8601 Dodge.
Apparently, we don't have enough Mexican restaurants in Omaha opening.
Especially that one. That food was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Rally Coffee Company is opening its second location at 178th and Highway 370 in Gretna. The existing location is in North Downtown. This is the same strip center, brand new strip center where Netpar recently opened in Gretna. And then Sweet Beans Coffee will host a grand opening November 14th, coming up next week, 186th and Harrison Street.
We need more coffee shops.
So they say. The Brownie Bar, which tastes pretty good with a good cup of coffee, has moved just across the street, Rockbrook Village. It is now next to Corkscrew and whatever else is next to Corkscrew. All right, Kids Indoor Play Park, which is known as KIPP, K-I-P-P, Kids Indoor Play Park, opening soon, 144th and West Center Road, next to Vasa Fitness. This is set to be Omaha's largest indoor play park.
That'll be interesting because the Vasa is really taking up all the parking. So I guess parents will just drop their kids off and let them run free.
Unfortunately, Trenton, I think you're a little too old for the place. Sephora, a national makeup and beauty store, appears to be taking over the former Eddie Bauer space at One Pacific Place. This will be, the third standalone Sephora store in the market. The other one is at Village Point. I guess it's just the second. They do have them also inside Kohl's department stores. Swing 365, which is an indoor golf simulator, going into Rockbrook Village. They have an existing location at 178th and Harrison Street. And the music is playing, which means that we have to stop talking. The rest of our items will have to wait for next week. You can also keep up with everything at growomaha.com. News every day on that website. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Magid.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center, Cheer Athletics, and of course, Perkins Kreitzer Construction. We'll chat with you next week at 9, right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB.
If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.